Today was the day where we found out that there are more Australians employed today than were there at the start of the pandemic. Compare that to the rest of the world, where obviously places like America are still millions of people below where they were at the job-wise at the start of the pandemic. I had a chance to talk to the Treasurer about that and a whole lot more.
Well, Paul, today's job numbers really did surprise on the upside. I mean, 88,700 new jobs, the unemployment rate falling to 5.8%. As you say, the employment level is now higher than it was pre-pandemic. That all points to an amazing recovery across the Australian economy. There's still a long way to go, and there are still sectors and regions, and no doubt viewers watching your show tonight who are doing it tough, but the Morrison government will be there with them right to the end of this crisis. But today's numbers really put a dent in Labor's sales and did remind everyone how resilient and strong the Australian economy is.
Well, your opposite number, Jim Chalmers, Albo, you could almost see a slight air of disappointment in their eyes. They were expecting that somehow there was going to be a bigger dent, a harder dent, and that's always weird when people seem to want the opposite of what's best for the country in terms of the results when it comes to jobs.
Well, they look pretty sombre in the Parliament today, and obviously they scraped the bottom of the barrel with their questions as well, wanting to talk about anything other than the economy. I mean, the reality is they've been talking the economy down during this pandemic, and that's been very unfortunate. And we know they took to the last election $387 billion of higher taxes. Could you imagine whacking the Australian economy with that higher tax burden at a time it was facing the pandemics and obviously the ongoing drought and those terrible bushfires? So we're really pleased that our economic support program is working, that the economic lifeline that was JobKeeper has done its job. It's helped save more than 700,000 jobs, and it saw 3.6 million Australians on that program at its peak. But people are graduating now, and we'll transition to the next phase of our economic recovery plan, and that's with the tax cuts, the infrastructure spending, the training places, and of course the many other support programs like the aviation and tourism package that the Prime Minister, the DPM, and myself and Dan Tehan announced just a few days ago.
Now, we've heard today that there's going to be a little bit of an extension for people who work for airlines, sort of JobKeeper 2.0. We'll see what happens here. But there are a lot of people watching us, particularly in, as you say, regional areas. And I know there's the political focus about regional areas in Queensland. We're going to go to Cairns next week for our show. And this is supposedly one of the areas where, when JobKeeper ends, thousands of people lose their jobs. Do you think that's going to happen, or do you believe something else is going to happen? Because obviously, if there's no new money and the current existing support disappears, then something is going to happen here.
Well, both Treasury and the Reserve Bank of Australia has forecast that even when JobKeeper ends, the steady trajectory is for the unemployment rate to get down to a lower level over the course of the year. Now, I think it may be a bit bumpy when JobKeeper comes to an end, but you can't leave an economy-wide wage subsidy like that in place indefinitely. I mean, Labor's never seen a spending proposal they haven't loved and a tax hike they haven't liked. And the reality is that they want that to continue, but it has to come to an end. And if we left it in place, it would start having some adverse consequences for the economy, in particular preventing people moving to more efficient roles across the economy. Now, there is no JobKeeper 3.0. There is no special JobKeeper payment in the aviation sector. What there is a particular payment to the airlines to protect our sovereign international flying capability, and that's important so that we can rebound on the other side of the pandemic. I was in Cairns recently, and you'll find a lot of warm and welcoming people up there. And what they did say to me is they needed that little bit of extra support to get to the other side. They really appreciated everything the government had done through the cash flow boost, the $750 payments to pensioners and carers, the income tax cuts, the JobKeeper payments. But what they needed is a bit extra support. So that's where our half-price airfares will make a difference. And Warren Ench, who's been a wonderful advocate for North Queensland, he has said that has been really well received because we'll be providing half-price flights into Cairns, and that will see more planes in the air, and of course that means more tourists on the ground.
Now, there was a reform which is apparently happening in the next couple of days, which is that have you got some sort of an agreement out of the states to recognise that certain people doing certain jobs would be allowed to cross a border even if it had been closed an hour earlier here? We're talking about, what, 124,000 tradies, apparently, and people like that. How does that system work, and how does somebody watching apply for it?
Well, there's a mutual recognition reform that we are seeking now to pass through the parliaments of Australia. It's a partnership between the federal and the state governments. It's been talked about for a long period of time, but basically it works like a driver's licence. You may get your driver's licence in Queensland, but you can still drive in Melbourne. What it doesn't require is you to go and pay new fees and get a new accreditation when you work interstate in particular areas. So it's, I think, a very sensible reform. It will boost productivity. It will obviously boost employment as well. And we've still got to legislate it through, but we have announced it and we have agreed it with the states and territories, which is a really positive development.
Good to see. All right, final question on the behalf of the 10% of Australians who smoke. Are taxes going up in the budget or have we hit the top for a little while?
Well, I know that you probably don't smoke cigarettes. You probably only smoke cigars, Paul. But
I've paid my fair share.
The reality
mate.
is, I know you have, you and Fidel. But look, the reality is that we're a party of lower taxes, and we look for every opportunity to cut taxes in various areas, and we've done that on income tax, we've done that on company tax, and we've done that in other areas for small business as well. So I'm not going to preempt the budget, but you obviously should give up smoking for other reasons, Paul, but I'm not your mother, so I shouldn't go on with this sermon for too long.
All right, I'll put you down as a maybe. All right, thank you very much, Josh. Nice to talk to you, Treasurer.
All the best, my friend.
Honestly, we've paid enough, all right? It keeps going up all the time.